this video is going to be a bit of a rant. So I will be too educational. But I love my country, but I hate my government. Like, with the burning passion of 1,000 suns, the corrupt duopoly has kind of just perverted everything the founders actually built into a kind of grotesque machine designed to extract wealth and crush liberty. That's the way I can put it. The federal government is absolutely a bloated and parasitic monster that steals half of your paycheck, surveils your every move, and dictates how you can live on your own property. Like, these are mathematical facts backed up by hard numbers that should make your blood boil. Makes my blood boil. The federal government spends $7 trillion per year. I wrote out all the zeros on the screen because you really need to see those zeros to actually understand the scale of the theft in general. Every single American, man, woman, child, infant, is on the hook for $21,000 annually. A family of four carries an $84,000 burden every single year. And for what exactly? The federal debt has exploded to $36 trillion, with interest payments hitting $952 billion this year alone. And that's more than we spend on Medicare or defense. Nearly $1 trillion just to service debt, not even touching the actual principal. Like, your unborn great-grandkids are already on the hook for a government that can't stop gorging itself on borrowed money. They'll inherit nothing but chains and a bill for services that they'll never actually receive. Roads are funded 91% by state and local government. Before people in the comments flip out, yelling about, oh, don't you want roads? They're funded, again, by state and local governments. So schools receive 92% of their funding from state and local sources the vast majority of the time. Police departments get 86% from the state and local budgets, while fire departments run on 96% state and local money. The federal government takes your money to maintain 800 military bases in 70 countries, paying $90,000 per Hellfire missile. They subsidize corn syrup production with billions, while simultaneously burning more and more billions, fighting the obesity epidemic that they actually created. The F-35 fighter jet program perfectly kind of encapsulates their competence. A $428 billion disaster that's 84% over budget, with a lifetime cost exceeding $2 trillion. Like, that money, we could literally buy every single American a Tesla and still have change left over. And instead, we get a flying brick with 873 documented flaws that can barely stay airborne. $2 trillion for jets that don't work. Like, while your local bridge collapses from neglect, your tax dollars get flushed down the toilet on insanity that mocks basically every hour you've ever worked. They spent $12 million on a Las Vegas pickleball court. Pickleball, where, veterans sleep under bridges. They put that into pickleball. They blew $4.8 million paying Ukrainian influencers to post on Instagram, while American families can't even afford groceries. Medicare alone flushed $454 million on COVID tests for viruses with 99.7 survival. You just can't make this up. Now, what this did do was enrich pharmaceutical companies for theater and paranoia. Your money gets handed out like Halloween candy to build turtle tunnels and fund gender studies in Pakistan, while your kid's school has leaking roofs and outdated textbooks. Every congressman gets their pet project funded, and you get the bill. The real cost goes deeper than what actually appears on your pay stub. The average American works from January 1st to April 18th just to pay their visible tax burden. 108 days of pure slavery to the state. But those are just the taxes that you can see on paper, my friend. Factor in hidden taxes, like inflation from the money printing, regulatory compliance costs that get passed on to the customer, and tariffs that jack up the price of everything you actually buy. And you're working late until May just to pay the government. 5 months of your life every year stolen through force and fraud, and money is just the beginning of what they actually want to control. For example, collecting rainwater on your property is illegal in multiple states. Growing food in your front yard violates city ordinances. Like, living off-grid basically triggers building code violations. Teaching your kids at home requires following the approved curriculum or facing truancy charges from the state. Every natural human activity has been criminalized unless you get permission and pay the fees. The surveillance apparatus that they've built, that you paid for, makes the Stasi look like amateurs playing with toys. Your phone tracks and records your every location, every second of the day. The NSA captures and stores every text, email, and phone call you make. License plate readers track your vehicle's movements across the country, building a database of where you go and when. Your smart TV listens to your conversation and sends the data to corporate servers. Your Ring doorbell directly interfaces with law enforcement facial recognition systems. Every financial transaction gets monitored, flagged, and reported if you dare use cash in amounts that they deem suspicious. In 2024, Congress expanded FISA Section 702, creating the most invasive surveillance law in American history. They can now force any business, your ISP, your phone company, your email provider, to surrender your data without a warrant, without probable cause, without you ever knowing. Congress actually exempted themselves from this Orwellian nightmare that they actually created. Congress members' data remains private while yours gets vacuumed up by algorithms. Rules for thee and not for me is the eternal motto of tyrants. And that hasn't changed. Now, they'll come up with a million different reasons to monitor, whether it's terrorists or whatever kind of excuse they have. But inevitably, no matter what they say it exists for, it's for you. It gets turned on citizens every single time. This system is not biased. It monitors everyone. It creates a dystopian web that tracks every human within the borders of the country and many times outside of it. You know, with a camera, every sensor, every database feeds into a system that knows where you are, who you're with, what you're doing, like all day, all the time, 24/7. Nowadays, your ability to even share data, your own data, with any other countries is basically non-existent, right? Under the excuse of actually protecting you from China and Russia, they've actually strangled your freedom in order to be able to do business globally with whoever they want. You can't share your ideas internationally or even communicate with people in the wrong country that the government doesn't like. The same government that can't secure its own classified documents or fix potholes wants to dictate, like, who can email, crushing innovation and things like free association, while heightening a noose ever more around our digital necks, basically. Edward Snowden proved all of this with his actual documents, which were no theories or speculation or conspiracy theories. Hard evidence actually showed the scope of the violation of the Fourth Amendment. And the response was, retroactively to legalize the crimes and expand the programs. Like, they had caught red-handed, and their solution was to change the law to make their crimes legal. When you point out these kind of basic facts about government overreach, they slap labels on you designed to marginalize and silence dissidents. DHS has fusion-centered documents that literally label people who reference the Constitution, support Ron Paul, oppose the Federal Reserve as potential domestic terrorists. Supporting the founding document of a country now qualifies as extremism in their twisted worldview. Now, mind you, bringing this up, none of this is really new. This has been around for a while. I've made a video on it because there's a lot of other stuff going on. But anyways, wanting to keep the money that you earned makes you an extremist in their eyes. Making your own medical decisions makes you dangerous. Questioning why they need 87,000 new IRS agents, which didn't actually happen, but they tried to get them, gets you flagged as a radical. Opposing civil unrest, forfeiture, which is literally highway robbery conducted by the police, puts you on a watch list. The real extremists wear suits and ties in D.C., voting to send your kids to die in wars that enrich Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, and they print trillions of dollars that destroy your purchasing power, subsequently robbing you. They're locked you in your home for 2 years over a virus with a 99.7 survival rate, using violence and threats of violence to actually achieve political goals is the textbook definition of terrorism. And that is exactly what they actually do every single day. Running for local office, homeschooling your kids, using Bitcoin or XMR, growing your own food, forming mutual aid networks that bypass their systems of dependence makes you the enemy in their eye. You become the threat to their democracy. A system where they vote to steal your money and control life while expecting gratitude for the privilege of being robbed. Like, look up the difference between democracy and a republic. It will blow your mind. And then reflect on the fact of what you actually pledge allegiance to when you say that. Every government program exists only through the threat of violence. Oh, literally. Refuse to pay taxes, and then with guns will put you in a cage. Like, ignore their regulations, and armed agents will destroy your business. Resist their edicts, and they'll shoot you dead in your home with no qualms. The system of organized crime, kind of wrapped in the flag, has convinced half the population that their theft and violence are not only normal, but actually necessary for civilization. The government produces absolutely nothing of value whatsoever. Every dollar they spend was stolen from someone who actually created wealth. Every regulation that they impose destroys opportunities and stifles innovation. Every program that they create becomes a permanent parasite that grows larger and larger every year, demanding more resources while delivering less value. Their incompetence with your money would be comedic if it wasn't so tragic. The Social Security overpaid $11 billion from 2005 to 2014 because apparently checking if someone's alive before sending checks is, just too complicated for them to handle. Medicare hemorrhaged $31.7 billion in improper payments in 2024 alone, enough to buy every doctor in America a brand new Ferrari. But except the money just vanished into the bureaucratic void. The VA spent over $1 billion on electronic healthcare records that crash constantly, leaving veterans basically waiting months for care while the system runs on technology from the Stone Age. The rudimentary waste absolutely defies comprehension and comparison. They're running 133 different broadband programs across 15 agencies. That's 132 programs, too many, burning $250 million just on administrative overhead, while rural America still can't get decent internet. Like, the Universal Service Fund's administrative cost exploded to $365 million in 2023, tripling in a decade for a program whose entire job is managing phone subsidiaries. They literally spent hundreds of millions to hand out millions. Only government math makes that actually work. The IRS demands every penny from you while running on computer systems that are older than most of the employees. They've burned through $4.8 billion on modernization that's really just buildings with better tools to spy on your Venmo transactions while their own systems crash trying to process things like basic returns. Meanwhile, the Department of Defense hasn't passed a financial audit in its entire existence, losing $2.5 billion in improper payments in 2021 alone. They could track your, $600 Cash App payment, but they can't account for billions in weapons. Even programs that are supposedly helping the poor become corporate welfare schemes, like the 340B drug pricing program exploded from $9 billion to $100 billion by 2022, with hospitals pocketing massive profits while patients see zero benefit. Charity becomes a business model where pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, and middlemen get rich while the sick stay broke, they stay dying, because, that's profitable. And, Social Security runs a policy scheme that, is $20 trillion underfunded. Like Medicare, federal pensions are $6 trillion in the hole. Like total unfunded liabilities exceed $122 trillion. That's $370,000 of debt for every American citizen. Recognizing these facts makes you a realist. And wanting to fix this broken system makes you a patriot. The actual extremists defend a system that steals half your income, monitors your every move, and labels you a terrorist for pointing out their crimes. The extremists believe an organization that's $35 trillion in debt should manage healthcare, that people who can't effectively run a DMV should control the entire economy. Real patriots take action by refusing to comply with unconstitutional laws. Jury nullification exists specifically for that purpose. Using cash and cryptocurrency starves the beast of both funding and data. Building parallel systems like homeschooling networks and local food programs and community defense groups creates resilience outside of their control, like voting in every local election for sheriff and city council and school board positions. It is where real change can start to occur in some cases. Teaching others with facts, rather than the talking points from CNN or MSNBC or whatever rhetoric that they're getting, basically wakes people up from their propaganda-induced slumber. But their system is more fragile than it actually appears. And that's why they get so paranoid about it. We outnumber them by orders of magnitude, and their entire house of cards requires our compliance in order to function. When enough people stop complying and start building alternatives, their system collapses. The federal government has become a parasite that's chewing its host. And recognizing this reality demonstrates that you're one of the few people still capable of basic pattern recognition. So congratulations on that one. Working to fix it connects you to the same spirit that dumped the tea in the Boston Harbor and told King George exactly where he could stick his tyranny. The revolutionary spirit that still lives in the hearts of Americans who refuse to kneel. End of my rant. Thanks for listening to me. If you watched it all to the end, I appreciate that. You have the patience of listening. Hey, case. I'll see you in the next video.